dkdynamite, and this is the fastest way to insta-kill all special enemies and complete the boss fight over in the tomb. This is an emergency video that I really wanted to put together, but as a reminder, I did post a full Easter egg guide for those that aren't familiar with the steps to get to the boss fight, and I even made an ending explain video for those curious about the narrative. As new strategies or quests get discovered, also expect plenty of fast updates over in the detonated articles. Now, you've probably heard that the ASG is still the king over in zombies. This has been the meta weapon since, I want to say, launch at least, and it still is. So here's the build for it, since the shotgun does the most damage against a sentinel artifact, which you're going to want to keep note of. And here are the attachments that people have been running on this particular ASG build. There's the full choke muzzle, reinforced barrel, ranger foregrip, extended mag 2, light stock, a steady aim laser, and even a rapid fire mod. Now, some of you may not have all these attachments unlocked. In that case, try to run as many of these as you can, but don't stress too much about this weapon because it still packs a punch regardless. No pun intended, but that's not what I wanted to focus on here in this video. Still keep that ASG handy, but shout out to Caspa Z, who first brought this to my attention a couple of hours ago in the video he posted. I was just scrolling through YouTube, managed to find this strat, and I couldn't believe how crazy it was. So what you want to do is take out the ice staff, the upgraded ice staff to be exact, and simply shoot a charge shot, followed by quickly taking out a hand cannon. And once you do that, not only does this do severe damage to the amalgams, but also insta-kills all other enemy types, which is absolutely wild. And if I'm not mistaken, the reason why this happens is because score streaks are designed to do infinite damage so that it is scaled properly for higher rounds. That just makes sense. For some reason, when you take out that score streak while the ice staff frost blast is in effect, that somehow transfers the max damage a streak could do over to the ice staff. It's a really weird bug that I do believe is probably going to get patched in the next couple of days, if not sooner. But if you're somebody who is really struggling with this boss fight and you haven't completed it yet, this is something that you're gonna want to try. I know Treyarch previously communicated that they don't believe in nerfing fun, but this is very clearly a bug, or I guess you can call it an exploit, while using score streaks with the ice staff. So I do think this will be something that gets patched out, like I said. I'm also hearing reports that apparently you can pull out a ray gun while the ice staff charge is on the ground, and this may also work. So I'm sure there's several different ways you can go about activating this insta-kill frost blast zone. But to put it simply, this does seem like oversight. Obviously, a hand cannon only costs 1,250 salvage to craft, unless you go ahead and get one off the ground. Maybe a special enemy drops it. This doesn't just have to be used for the boss fight, though. If you want to go to a high round, do some XP farming, this is probably something that people are going to be doing in place of grinding directed mode if they just want to farm kills and level up as fast as possible. But essentially, what you're doing is using this strat to take care of all the special enemies that spawn in during each phase of the boss fight, especially when it comes to the marked and named heavy enemies that do hold the sentinel artifact. Those could be a pain to actually kill depending on the coordination your team has, or if you're on solo, could be even more difficult. And those enemies, of course, could insta-kill you, so the faster you get those enemies out the way, the better. Now, I talked about the boss fight in depth in my Easter egg guide a few days ago, but now that more information has been learned about how these phases work, I do want to break down, again, the most efficient way to get this done in quite literally under 10 minutes. So essentially, the first three phases do involve just simply waiting on the artifact to become vulnerable, and while you're waiting for that, it's just best to clear the crowd as best as you can, whether you're using wonder weapons or your normal ranged loadout, whatever it is you prefer. And once you get past those simple three phases, now is when things get a bit tough, because now that there's 4 artifacts spinning towards the middle, it will eventually spawn a 5th artifact that is infused with a newly spawned armored and named zombie. This zombie can quite literally insta-kill you if you're not careful. Most likely it'll actually get you down with 2 hits depending on how much armor you have. But if you can quickly kill this zombie, he'll drop the artifact, and then once it glows purple, you can actually put damage into it. And you have to do that while worried about the crowd that may be behind you. So doing this new ice staff strategy can really help out, ensuring that you can focus just on that sentinel artifact by itself. So the next few phases after this are just about the same, except you'll see additional artifacts being spawned and are spinning in a circle, which you of course have to avoid because those laser attacks can also do significant damage to you. But it'll start spawning in different marked and special zombies that will again be holding that artifact. I've also been made aware, since things were hectic on launch of this map, that another special zombie type who's just holding a blue kind of transparent artifact will also walk around and do a lot of damage to you. If you kill him, that's good, because nothing else needs to be done with that zombie. Just take him out before he insta-downs you and focus on the other special zombie holding the red artifact that will eventually be vulnerable. The other zombies holding the blue artifacts are honestly mostly just trolls and need to be taken out as fast as you can, which they can be when doing this ice staff and score streak strategy. But once you're on the final phase of the boss, don't forget that you have to deplete that entire health bar. If you don't, there will be an insta-wipe attack that will initiate, and then your run is over. So if you don't have Idle Eyes, I get it, things could be a bit tough. This is where you want to throw those decoys or monkey bombs, pop your ether shroud, anything else that you can pop to make sure the zombies are off your back while you fully focus fire on that artifact. Now, amalgams don't insta-die with this strat. They're easily the most annoying enemy type and probably on a list of like the top 5 most annoying zombie types of all time, but this strat will still do significant damage to them, and that's really what your goal is, right? Just having efficient crowd control so that you can get to that artifact and put in as much damage as possible, which luckily the ASG requires a lot less effort when it comes to doing damage to the artifact. Sometimes using bullet weapons just isn't all that, and if your entire team isn't shooting that artifact, you often won't do enough damage. This strategy almost seems the most efficient if you want to do a solo run, but this still will really come in clutch on co-op if multiple people are doing this strategy at once with the ice staff and hand cannon, and then are also using ASGs to really quickly take down the Sentinel artifact's health bar. But hey, you may be watching this video after this strategy does get patched out. In that case, there's still a bunch of other useful information that I'll recap real quickly. So as of now, it doesn't look like any explosive weapons do any real damage to the artifact. That could of course change later. People have claimed the ray gun could damage the artifact depending on what angle you're shooting it from, but I really wouldn't take that chance. Maybe they'll confirm this in patch notes later on. The ice staff really doesn't do anything to the artifact, but if let's say you run out of ammo in your LMG, don't have speed cola, and your teammates also are in the middle of reloading, still spam the ice staff at the artifact if you can to at least do something to it in the chance that it'll complete the phase for you. You'll know a phase has been completed once a max ammo spawns in the very middle. Now there's very little shooting even happening, as you can see in the first couple of phases of the boss from this particular gameplay. It's pretty much spamming the ice staff charge, and then once the artifact's available, shoot that with the ASG. On co-op, it could be a little bit different. If more zombies are spawning in, you'll want to use your bullet weapons a little bit more. But Brain Rot as your ammo mod is probably the most useful to make sure that you have some extra help with taking out all the zombies that are spawning in. There's even a Brain Rotted Army side Easter egg, which I'll be covering in a short soon. That could also be something that gets used for a boss fight. I haven't tested that myself personally, but if you can get that to work during the boss, maybe spawn them in right before activating the Sentinel artifact, that could also likely help you with maintaining that crowd. But having a mutant injection on you in the case you get cornered or in case all your teammates are down, that can also be something that can help you make a bit of a comeback and save the run that you're currently in. Now, not everybody has gobblegums, fully aware of that. Luckily, the strat that I showed you today doesn't really require any, but in the case you're worried about losing all your perks, then maybe run an extra perkaholic or a raindrops to get some boost with the power-ups. In all honesty though, I think the most useful gobblegums that you'll see everyone running is something like Idle Eyes or even Near Death if they're on co-op. Idle Eyes will give people the chance to focus just on that artifact in the moment when the actual artifact itself is vulnerable. But if you run Ether Shroud with the group Shroud Augment while you're playing co-op, this can be really useful to make sure everybody gets a chance to stay concealed against the heavier zombies that are spawning if, again, the ice staff strategy does get nerfed. And then Burst Dash is probably the augment you'll run on solo since the other augment won't have any use to you. That can also give you a bit of a boost, but the minor augment should definitely be the extra charge one so that you can really make sure if you need Ether Shroud to revive your teammates, that can be something that is quickly available to you. But overall, that is about it. This has been dkdynamite. Leave your thoughts down below in the comment section. Let me know what your strategy was with beating the boss here over in the tomb. I'll of course make follow-up videos to this one if anything substantial does get discovered, but as of now, on January 30th, this is easily the fastest way to beat the tomb. Really hope you've enjoyed, and peace out, everybody.